I realized I was just speaking for like, what, 10 minutes, and that I wasn't even recording, which is great. So let's do this again. Today I'm going to be doing one of my first mashups of reviews for this year, and they will be called like new releases mashups. So how this works is every month I'm going to be doing a review or reviews for the books that were released the previous month. So this is March, or we're in March at the moment, so I'm going to be doing new reviews for February new releases. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, I am going to be reviewing these 4 books for you guys today, and I think this one was the only one that was released in January, but it was at the end of January, so I'm counting it as a February release as well. I'm just making sure this is recording. It is. I know I haven't read all of the new releases for February, but these were the ones that were my anticipated books of 2014, so these were the ones that I wanted to read more than the other ones. But you know, let's get started. If you keep hearing yelling in the background, it's my family. They're really loud. First up, I have A Man with Folly by Sharon and I know that you've probably seen most of these in my videos because I constantly talk about them. I was supposed to read them last month as well, so I'll do a quick synopsis. Basically, A Man with Folly follows the story of a girl named Victoria Darling who lives in London 1909. She is passionate about drawing, painting, and she ends up posing nude for a secret art class where she gets caught and becomes expelled and sent back to home. And when she gets home, she sees that women have actually stepped up and they're now protesting to have rights to vote, and those women are called suffrages. So she delves into this world where she realizes that women can basically stand up to what they believe in, and so she ends up pursuing her art career and just mingling with the suffrages, I guess. I'm basically going to pinpoint the things that I like and didn't like about this book. So first up, I absolutely love the premise of this book, or the idea around it. Feminism. I think not a lot of writers, or if there is, I haven't read many tackle this issue, and it certainly hasn't gotten a very positive light to it, especially because I think people think feminism is, well, men haters, but we're not really. I would say that I really do believe that females have the rights to do whatever men can do. I'm not a massive feminist. I'm not for this and this sort of thing, which is probably not something I should say in public because I'm going to get bashed. But I just think this was a great idea to write about. It's sets this book apart from other books, very unique, and it delivers a really good message to readers, especially I think because it's young adult, so younger readers, younger female readers can read about it and sort of see that just because we're female doesn't mean that we aren't able to do things that men can do. Likewise, I really liked the women in the book. I think they were great. They were very realistic, very believable. I could see the passion that was in them, and I was advocating with them the whole entire way through. And one of the women actually becomes friends with Vicky, and I loved their relationship because I think she brought out the better side of Vicky. Victoria was very passionate as a protagonist, and I liked that she wasn't sort of like, oh, I like doing this, but let's not do it. She she said something and she would do it, and she talked about art in a way that was very classy, very sophisticated, and you could see that she totally loved it, and I believed it. If you keep seeing me looking down, it's because I actually have notes here, because it's 4 books and it's very hard to remember all of the things that I want to say, so I've just pinpointed some books things down. I also really liked Will, and he is sort of the male counterpart in the book. And despite the fact that this is a book about feminism, I think Will is very hard not to like. He is a very likable character, very charming. The way that he believes in Vicky and how he supports her, and it's just very adorable. So I have a soft spot for Will. Overall, I think the book had a lot of potential to, you know, do well, and I think that is good. But this also comes down to things that I don't like, because I feel like that potential was sort of not taken up in this book. There was a lot more she could have done or something, but she sort of strayed from the plot a little bit, and this was when the romance side picked up, and it sort of rode over the story about, you know, females and their rights. So I guess I didn't really like that aspect, and that goes to show that, like, even though I like Will, Vicky does put a lot of reliance on him, and I think if you're going to write a story about feminism, shouldn't you have a female do a lot more work instead of having to, you know, rely on this boy? It's hard to talk about it because I don't want to spoil the plot, but essentially in the end Will does sort of help them out and stuff like that, so I was a bit about that. At some places, and like especially the beginning, the writing was very dry and very slow to pick up, and I just had to push through the first 100 pages or so. But afterwards it did pick up, and it got a lot more interesting, especially when women got into action. So I guess I could have overlooked that. The ending was definitely not something I expected. There were bits that were quite predictable, obviously, but I think the ending was very realistic, and it showed that, you know, hard work takes you places, and this is why I like Vicky as well, because she was rich, she was pretty, she had things given to her, but she didn't want any of that because she wanted to achieve her dream, and that's something that I believe in, and a very good message to readers as well. I ended up rating this a 4 out of 5 because I just think the plot and the premise around it makes it so unique compared to other stories. As much as it's not like one of the best books I've ever read, it's still something that I think I'll think about all the time, and something that I'll remember reading because of what it has to deliver, and I probably would recommend it to you guys. Next up is Pieces of Me by Amber Kizer, and this is a contemporary novel about a girl named, oh my god, I don't remember, Jessica, who ends up dying, and her parents donate bits and pieces of herself to other children or other teenagers who need the like organs and like donate like replacements and stuff like that. And the plot says that she gets angry about it and she doesn't agree to it. So what I expected from this novel was going to be something very gory but hilarious at the same time, and I have to say that the plot is, or the blurb is very, very misleading, because you don't get that at all. And that was something that I felt really distracted from my reading experience. I had this expectation built up, and because it was there when I was reading, I felt like it disappointed me until I got to the second half and I realized that I had to let go of this expectation because it wasn't going the way I wanted to go, and then I enjoyed it a lot more. This book had a very good meaning behind it. It was an absolutely beautiful but also very sad meaning. I learnt so much in terms of how, you know, you had to treasure your time, you had to also be positive at the same time but realistic, so, you know, don't get too ahead of yourself, but there are things you need to understand about yourself and the limits you can reach and how you can impact people around you. It was just a beautiful novel. I had so many feels, you know, both happy and sad and angry, and I think that's one of the most successful things you can get out of a book, is to create an emotional response out of readers. And I think I grew attached to most of the characters because the other 5 teenagers, or the other 4 teenagers, are called Samuel, Vivian, Leaf and Misty, and Jessica's organs, you know, the things that she's donated, helps them connect to each other, bind them together sort of thing, and they're like fate and destiny, whatever, are linked, and Jessica ends up being linked to them as well, so she can see what they're doing, feel their emotions sort of thing, I guess. So yeah, she really did act like their guardian angel on the side, I guess, which was very interesting, I think. And it really does explore, you know, what happens after death, what happens to the body, to the soul sort of thing. The character development was also very interesting and actually really well done. It was actually very well done for a book that's only like around 300 pages long. Like, you don't really have much to work on with 300 pages, but I could see how the characters started out and then the ending and how much they had grown together, which I liked. And just the ending in general, I think, was very bittersweet, but at the same time very realistic. And I just felt very sort of, like, once I read this, I sort of felt really content with my life, really satisfied with what I had, and just in general very sort of nostalgic and sentimental. I don't know, there were moments when I was reading this on the train, and there was a bit that got really sad, and I just sort of had to like calm myself down and breathe through it because that's how strongly it affected me. The things that I didn't quite like was like I had already explained, this misleading plot which led to an expectation that sort of hindered my reading experience. So I guess if you do go through this book, go through it with no expectations, whatever, and you know, don't really try to get to know what it is about, because it's not what you will think it is. Yet again, there was sort of like a slow start to it. The character's voice got really annoying at some bits, but it worked out. There were some parts that were slightly confusing because Jessica was using the I pronoun, and then she was talking about the other teenagers, and they were like he and she, and it's just like, whoa, too many pronouns to work with. I also didn't like that they stereotyped one of the characters, and even though they don't tell us which race she's from, you can sort of tell that, well, I interpreted that she was Asian because her parents were so strict and stuff, but that stereotype is so overused that I didn't really, you know, come to love it that much. But if I'm wrong, then please do tell me, because I don't know, that's my interpretation. Other than that, I gave this a 4 out of 5 as well, because of how much it impacted me, and I think it's just a beautiful piece of work. Oh, we're nearly there, halfway through, and thirdly, I have The Glass Casket by McCormick, Templeman, and this is actually as beautiful as it seems. It's got a very sort of like mysterious cover to it, and that's exactly what this book about. It's a mystery about the killings of the soldiers that happen in the forest of a small town, and suddenly everyone is freaking out because they don't know what it is, not who it is, what it is, and then murders keep happening, and the town tries to figure out what they have to do and how to stop this thing that's going around and doing like massive rampages. It definitely delivered in terms of the mystery. I was kept on my seat until the very end, so you know, Templeman does a very good job in building intensity. She or he, not sure, builds the intensity very well, to the point where I was like, you know, like writing the moments with them, and I just had to read and keep reading. I finished this in class because I just really wanted to know what was going on, and I think that was what really worked in this book. It didn't let go of anything. The tension was built very well, and that's probably one of the best things about this book, which combines with the plot as well, because the plot was done very well. I guess it was very much a solid plot. It certainly explained what the thing was, how it came to be, and what the characters around it had to do with it. And it was very interesting in terms of what Templeman used to, like, the elements that she or he used to write the plot, because even though it's a mystery, there are fantasy elements in this plot, and the writing in general has a very fairy tale-esque vibe, sort of almost like the TV show Once Upon a Time. You know, it's just set in this like world that where the people are very, like, they believe in a goddess and fairies and witches and goblins and yada yada yada, even though you don't really get to see them, but that's just a feel of it, and I liked that feel because it gave me sort of the shivers when they were talking about walking through the night and stuff like that. It does get a little gory at some points, which I think worked, because, you know, if you're doing a mystery or murder, you do have to have bits where it's like, Mom, I'm doing something. Oh my god, my mom just walked in and I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so I really liked that sort of feeling to it. I'm getting my pencil case. I don't want to edit you out, right? No! Don't edit me out! And my brother came in as well, so clearly my filming is going very well at the moment. I don't think I have a special place for any of the characters besides probably Jude, because he was most relatable, I guess, or realistic. Other than that, the characters were just blah. The ending was very bittersweet, and I liked the ending. I think it tied up everything very well. It certainly shows how great a relationship can be, how strong ties are, and how much love can be, like how strong love can be, sort of thing. Other than that, though, I think the book was very rushed, especially at the end. McCormick Templeman is actually a lady. Okay, so it's a she. It's not very long. It's 340 pages or so, but it did seem really rushed, especially towards the end. There was not much character development, but I guess because the plot was so involved with the mystery, you sort of expect that. And lastly, at the end of the day, after finished reading it, I realized that it was basically like a flat story. You know, the ones where you read and you're so into it, but at the end you're like, well, there was nothing in there, was there? Like, it was just about the mystery and that was it, sort of thing. I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but it certainly didn't really, like, I wasn't very sure. This one gave me a hard time because I was very conflicted as to what to rate it. I liked it, but I didn't like it that much, and I was like, I don't know. So I think I'm going to have to go with half stars and give this a 3.5. Although I do recommend reading this, actually. I suggested a friend to read it because I think it makes for a very easy read. And lastly, we have Tsarina by J. Neil Patrick, and this was the book that I have in my book haul, and I think my book haul will be uploaded before this video. I'm not sure, we'll see. But J. Neil Patrick is actually the name for the author, Jackson Pierce. Basically, Tsarina follows the story of Natalia during the Russian era, where the Reds are trying to overthrow the Whites, and the Reds are communists and the Whites are the royals, all the people who, you know, live in prestigious houses and stuff like that, yada yada yada. And Natalia and the heir to the throne, Alexei Romanov, oh my god, I'm in trouble with pronunciation. They are in love, and everybody knows that at the end of the, they will eventually get married. And he ends up showing her one day the Fabergé.
Sorry for interrupting, but is there Sarah Padlet?
Stop interrupting me! Ah, right, the Fabergé egg. I have no idea how to pronounce that either. But it is a magical egg that binds the Russian royal family to Russia, so they have ties to it, and so, you know, if they keep that, then they'll have power to save themselves. But if it's in the wrong hands, then dun dun dun. And that's basically the story, where the egg goes missing, and Tsarina, Natalia, actually goes on this mission to find it, and she goes along with this guy named Leah, who is a communist, and her best friend Amelia, who is also like a countess. and it's definitely a very interesting read. I don't know a lot about Russian history, besides the fact that it became a communist country under Lenin. So I had to get my friend to explain that for me. I think if you're a massive Russian history fan, you'll definitely love this book. But because I didn't know much, I just had to do research prior to this. Because if I didn't, I probably would have been like, what's going on? So I had to do that. I really loved the feel of this book. It was a very Russian feel, which doesn't make any sense, but because you've got the history, the scenery, and everything, you can sort of imagine the beautiful white blanketed city, St. Petersburg, where she lives, and then when they travel to Moscow, and it's just that feeling, that very sort of magical feeling you get. It's just beautiful. The writing is simply amazing. I loved every moment. It flowed through perfectly. It was like you're it's one of those beautifully poetic sort of books. It's just amazing. There were a couple of plot twists to it and a massive shock that I had, and I was devastated when I read it. I was on the train and I was reading it, and I got to that point. I was like, wait, what? And then I had to close the book, and then sort of I was hyperventilating, and people were just staring at me like, oh my god, and I was like, and I had to stop reading, but at the same time I was like, I have to push on and finish this because it is so good. And I was just like, it was really bad. Thinking about it now, it's making me go, woo. It's just overall, I think it was a great historical read. I don't know if it's perfectly 100% accurate to history, but it certainly gave a very good insight as into what the communists thought about the whites and what the whites thought about the reds and how they sort of battled it out. I think because there's a magical element to it, it might not be accurate. I think it's more fictionalized, but that aspect was something that I couldn't really care about in the book. I didn't care that there was these sort of mystics who are sort of the magicians of the time, and they had secret powers, and they had their little own storyline of their own. But I was like, oh, I don't really care about that. It does tie in at the end, but I just got angry at them all the time. I just thought whatever they did, whatever that happened to them, they deserved it. That's it. That's what I thought. The fantasy element, or the magic bit, I think worked well in terms of the egg. It sort of slid through the history elements and linked itself well, despite the fact that I didn't like the mystics. Natalia and Emmeline, I'm pretty sure her name, Emilia, were perfect friends. I reckon they had one of the best relationships that I've ever read about in terms of loyalty, trust, never sort of deserting your friends. I guess it did sort of, I don't think it ended up that well in terms of their friendship was sort of forgotten towards the end. The romance got into it, so that was something that was sort of iffy about. But Natalia and Alexei, relationship was just on point. I felt for them so much, just everything about them, and I in the end I knew it wasn't just puppy love. It was something called fate, I guess, and soulmates, and just, oh my god. And I loved that she portrayed the two-sided arguments to the to the plot. You're not getting, oh well, the Reds are being rebels, they're riding, they're killing everybody and stuff, and you're not getting the whites who just didn't give a crap about everybody. You're getting two sides of stories because you're getting Leo's and Natalia's, even though it's just through Natalia's point of view. And Natalia sort of gets to understand the Reds, and Leo can sort of see why Natalia is doing what she does, which I really liked. I felt like Leo and Natalia's relationship was really underdeveloped, and it moved too fast for the storyline. It was very kind of unrealistic. I don't think I wanted it to be that way, but it happened. Again, I think it took me probably the first 20 pages to get into. Maybe that's just me. None of these books, I don't know, I guess it was just me, maybe it's because I didn't really understand what was going on and I had to do my research and then keep reading. Like I said, I couldn't care about the mystics, or the egg actually. Even the egg was sort of like, whatever, like, are you necessary sort of thing. The ending was very abrupt. That is something I did not like about this book. It was just like, it flowed through so well and then it went bang. That was it. And I was like, what's going on? I really wanted to have, like, see a little more development with, you know, Natalia. Get to see what the country was like after that. But I guess the book is more central on the egg. So once, you know, you got to understand the egg a bit more, it just finished. And I was still left with some questions, which I don't like to have after I finish reading a really good book, because it doesn't leave me very satisfied when I'm reading it. But overall, I think I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5, because as much as I thought it was an amazing book, like amazing and beautiful, the ending always makes, or the ending always, that like sums up everything that I want, that I feel about this book, or a book, any book in general. And I just don't think that the ending of this was that spectacular. That's all for my reviews. I hope I didn't ramble on too much. I'm very thirsty at the moment. I think I talk too much, and I definitely do recommend all of the books that I have read because I thought they were great. But all in all, I think that is it, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye!